Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here walking with you in God's Word. And we are in Joshua chapter 5. And as they've just crossed over the Jordan River, God's provision, God's presence going before them, standing in the middle of the Jordan, them collecting them stones, building a memorial, camping in Gilgal. Gilgal, it's a word in Hebrew that sounds like roll. They've rolled through. God's rolled them to this place to encamp. But bigger, we're going to find out in chapter 5, he has rolled away. He has rolled away the stigma of Egypt. He has rolled away, as it says in this way, the reproach of Egypt on his people, because he has brought them through the desert wanderings. He's brought them through the Jordan River on dry ground, just as he did the Red Sea. And now they are camped ready, well, almost ready, to be able to walk according to God's, again, provision and leadership. But there's something that they need to do. There's something that they need to do that they've failed to do or haven't done, haven't been directed by God to do throughout the desert wanderings. Kind of two things. One is all the males that have been born since the time of Egypt. Now I want to put this into context, right? There's only two people that have come from Egypt that are going to enter into the promised land. And that is Caleb and that is Joshua. The first two spies that said, this is in the Lord's hands. The 10 other spies says, there's giants. We can't do this. Joshua and Caleb are the only ones that have experienced Egypt, the wanderings, and now going into the promised land. They've journeyed around for those 40 years to be able to actually have those male warriors die off. And so as they were consecrated to the Lord in the past, before the Passover, leaving Egypt, that was in the form of the covenant. That was in the form of the ritual of circumcision. And so as they have entered into the desert, as they have walked and being able to wander with the Lord, sinned against the Lord, they didn't do two things in the desert. And that was they did not celebrate the Passover in the desert, and they did not, and they were not circumcised, the males in the camp. And so for consecration purposes, being able to be set apart for the Lord, they're going to actually be children of Abraham, as that's what that covenant of circumcision started out as. So they're going to need to be circumcised, and they're also going to celebrate the Passover. And so here comes God's provision again, circling around saying, you are my people. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be seen, and this is how you're going to celebrate. Now, this is how it's going to be seen, is the circumcision. This is how you're going to celebrate, is going to be Passover. Don't mix those up. Wasn't much of a celebration, but it was a consecration to the people being God's people. And the Lord will go before them, not just through the Jordan, but now into battle, into conquest. And that's where we have chapter 5. It goes into detail and being able to say this as I just kind of paraphrase it all, but putting us into that context of now the people of God, circumcised, consecrated, and also celebrating the Passover once again. Chapter 5. Now, when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast, Mediterranean coast, heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until we had crossed over, their hearts melted, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth. Gibeath Haraloth. I won't tell you what that means. You can actually, if you have a study Bible, you can take a look by yourself. Now, verse 4. Now, this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of the military age, died in the desert on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised. But all the people born in the desert during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the desert 40 years, until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land that he had solemnly promised their fathers to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. The preparation, if you remember, of being able to say they came into and they settled and they encamped in Gilgal in the 10th day of the first month. And so we're going to be actually consecrating them soon in that way, and then their time of rest, their time of preparation, because 4 days later we get to see the time of the Passover. And this is where we have it coming forth in this way. Verse 9. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." Gilgal, rolled away. You're actually encamped in a place that I promised, and I'm going to actually roll away the reproach. And what is the reproach of Egypt? Really, the reproach of Egypt isn't being out of Egypt. The reproach of Egypt is that they went to the desert just to die. And so he's rolling that away. He didn't just go into the wanderings out of Egypt to die. No, it was in preparation towards my promises that I'm fulfilling for you now. I'm going to take away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal, rolled away, to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land. Now they're actually being provided by God from the land that was promised. Why is this big? Because they had continually been provided by God through manna. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate of the produce of Canaan. God's been providing for years and years and years. We kind of forget about that, right? And being able just to just take it in, just take it for granted, that bread was raining down from heaven for 40 years to provide for the nutrition of his people, the walk and the sustenance of his people. And now his provision, his sustenance is actually of the land that he promised, a land flowing with milk and honey, produce in Canaan. Now, I can tell you personally, the produce in Canaan, the produce in Jericho, I had some oranges in Jericho when I was over there a couple years ago. This is incredible produce. Now, this is a desert, arid place, yet there is actually springs of water around Jericho that in this kind of low down city in this valley, and there's these date palms and all of these agricultural places. Nowhere else around Jericho and going up into Jerusalem do you get to see these farms. But the produce, they say, of Jericho, amazing, beautiful, so luscious. And so I got to experience this produce of Canaan, and it was incredible, even now today. Verse 13, God is not just providing for them, sustaining them through the land, through the fruit of the land, but he's actually going to take them forward into the conquest of the land. Verse 13, now when Joshua was near Jericho, now when you talk about near Jericho, he was actually heading to Jericho to kind of spy it out, kind of take a look at it, and what does this fortified city really look like. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword. There was already a warrior there, and there was a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. What does that remind you of? This is now, just as it was with Moses, it will be with you, Joshua. As Moses was encountered by the burning bush, take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy. The presence of God is here. This commander of the Lord's army says the same thing to Joshua before going into battle. How beautiful it is that God is continually going before. Neither for Israel nor for the enemy. No, this is the Lord's battle. But it just so happens that he's going to actually call his people, gather his people for his purposes. And so this commander of the Lord's army, a lot of people see this as Christological, meaning that it is this kind of pre-incarnate Christ, the commander of the Lord's army, because we get to see that later in scriptures. Very well could be. But what we do know of this warrior, what we do know of this being, it is that presence of God before his people. Because on the place that he is standing, it's holy. God makes that holy. And so this commander of the Lord's army isn't really giving him the details of war, but being able just to say, this is the Lord's. And so Joshua falling down reverence, but also collecting this and being able to say, whoa, the Lord's going before me. I can hear and echo those words again from that first chapter. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord is with you wherever you go. Brothers and sisters in Christ, how beautiful Joshua chapter 5 is, consecrating the people for God's purposes, celebrating with the people his provision and the reality of his sacrifice that he brought them out of Egypt. But also God didn't just consecrate them, call you my people, and then bring them, rescue them out of Egypt, but rather sustain them and provided for them. And this is that same God that's going before them into battle. It's the Lord's, because he's going to fight this battle because it's the battle for his provision of his promises. His promises will never fail. His promises are always fulfilled. And so he goes before Joshua, readying him and his people for what is in store. And that is to fulfill the promises of God from generations ago to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, before that the people, his people, to live in that land, feast upon that land, and being able to worship God right there in that land. So brothers and sisters in Christ, God goes before us. The battle is the Lord. The heavens and earth are all in his hands. And how beautiful it is that he fulfills his promises. And we get to see that fully in our lives and in our faith in Jesus Christ, the commander of the Lord's army. And to that we say, thanks be to God. Have a blessed day.